So I often see comments from people complaining about, oh, those new luxury apartments, they're so expensive. They're so expensive. Why that's all they build are these expensive luxury apartments. And here's kind of my response to that. Imagine a world where we have chicken, and chicken is the cheapest, like most common protein. It's the entry level protein that most people who need a complete protein can afford for their meals, right? But let's imagine that we have like all these restrictions that we place on cooking chicken, right? Like you have to have a special pot and a special pan, and only certain areas and certain restaurants are allowed to cook it, and it has to go through some kind of like design review for the chicken, and you get the chefs from the local government have to approve it before it can be built, and then the neighbors near the restaurant, some of them want to give their input on the chicken, and also some of them just don't like chicken in their backyard, and oh well, all of a sudden you've made it very difficult to cook chicken. And now you've got this situation where you have to sell it as luxury chicken to make up for all these costs, right? Like, I think that's the situation that we're in. We've made it very difficult to cook apartments. And yeah, it would be nice if we could do more social housing and more subsidized housing, and if we could get the cost of the apartments down. But look at our cities. We've got like 90% only single family zoning. You can only build apartments in these certain areas along arterial roads for the most part, and we've got all these like artifacts of construction rules that don't necessarily make sense. You can't build a single stairway building. You have to build, a double loaded corridor, and you've got all these other architectural things that are more expensive, and you have to go through design review. And what I'm saying, and I think what a lot of YIMBYs are saying, is like, let's get rid of these rules, and then whether the government comes and builds socialized housing or whether the market comes and builds more housing, like, we've made it less expensive to build apartments, and that's good for everybody. Maybe they'll still be marketed as luxury housing because they're a new thing that's being built, and people don't like to build new things and market them as mid, but we've made it better for everybody by removing these restrictions and destigmatizing dense housing, which is really what America needs. People talk about these other countries that have more social housing or more affordable housing, like Vienna or Japan. But the thing about these countries is they've also massively destigmatized dense housing. It's very normal for you to live in an apartment or a flat, even as a family in these countries. We don't have that in America. We have to get to that point before we can, get all anxious about the design of the apartments and whether they're luxury or not. Like, we have to get to a point where we feel comfortable as a society building apartments almost everywhere so that we can sustain them and make them cheaper and more affordable, and also support transit and walkability in more areas, things like that. So if you hate luxury apartments, I don't know what luxury apartments are really. I think that's a marketing term, but we should try and make it easier to build apartments and other kinds of housing everywhere. Paradoxically, another complaint I see is people saying that the new apartments are really shitty. And I don't know what their measurement is of how these apartments are shitty, but they say that. And the funny thing is that if you added more constraints and made the building materials more expensive, presumably to make them less shitty, you'd just be making the new apartments even more luxurious and even more expensive. So I don't know what people want. Economic constraints are real. It would be nice, yes, if everything was made out of adamantium and completely indestructible materials and also cost $0, but I just don't know how you do that.